So, all right, welcome back. You want to know all about Staten Island, not just the hogwash you hear in the headlines about the reality shows and all this other crap.
Some of that's true.
It is, but you know, if you go into any town in America, you have some local extremists that kind of set the tone. But and that is what we are. I mean, it is one of the most Italian American congressional districts in.
Look, I mean, we are one of the most unique places on earth. And that doesn't stop with Italian immigration, or rather start with Italian immigration. That starts in 1524, I mean, when Giovanni da Verrazzano becomes the first European to sail through the Narrows. I mean, that's the start of Staten Island's history right there. No other place really. I mean, so few places in America can say their written history goes back to 1524.
Yeah, I mean, I know you went through a lot of crap with the wrong spelling of Verrazzano's name, and
no, but it's very aggravating. You have to. It's in the book. It's in the book. I will never take a shot at anyone else's version of history, but if you look at how Janus, how he pronounced his name, Janus Verrazanus, signed his name, it may or may not be the way that it's currently spelled on the Verrazzano Bridge.
I don't think it matters. I think everyone knows at this point. But I wouldn't like to see the city spend any more money.
No, definitely don't change it. Don't change it.
So Staten Island actually had quite the history as part of the Revolutionary War. There were peace talks here. Many of the founding fathers were actually in Staten Island. Tell us a little bit about that and what people need to know about.
So on September 11th, you have the British basically camped out in Brooklyn after the Battle of Brooklyn, and they convene a peace conference here at the Conference House, which is in Tauntonville. You can still visit it. And the best part about that whole peace conference, though, is John Adams' diary, where he outlines just what he and Ben Franklin had to do to get to the Conference House. And they had to sleep in the same bed in New Brunswick. It was one of those no room at the inn stories. So you have Adams and Franklin sleeping in the same bed, and Franklin is lecturing him on why they shouldn't open a window or should open a window, and they're arguing over that and until he falls asleep. And the same bed, the founding fathers, the same bed. I hope they did head to toe. I mean, look, John, if we ever slept in the same bed, we would do head to toe, like normal people.
Like
you do head to toe.
1 foot on the floor.
1 foot. You do something. You do something.
When you're talking about Franklin and Jefferson and Adams there, and I'm thinking about Ralph Cramden and Art Carney handcuffed to each other on the train.
Look, we're lucky we have these diaries, of these people who really, and Adams' diary is so descriptive, and we go through it about what he saw when he came to the Conference House, and it's really an interesting chapter of Staten Island's history.
So Staten Island, I know I'm a member over at Richmond County, and I know like up there almost to the top of Toad Hill is one of the highest points on the eastern seaboard. But another golf course now in Staten Island was kind of a lookout point that protected New York Harbor, right?
Yeah. It's a lot of red golf course. If you're on the 10th tee, in my book I say it's the second tee because it used to be the second tee, but now it's the 10th. The 10th tee is the fort that the British built to basically protect Richmond Town and the approach to Richmond Town by boat up Fresh Kills. And I know people like the show Turn. It's an AMC show. It's pretty popular. It's about the American Revolution. The main character, John Graves Simcoe, the villain of the whole show, was a real British soldier. I mean, he was here on Staten Island. In fact, he was stationed here while he was engaged in spying and espionage and rooting out spies. Basically, everything he did on the show in fictional Long Island, it was what he was doing here on Staten Island.
Yeah, and I know there was, I don't remember my history great, but I'm looking forward to reading the book, but there was a group of like Tories who were like traitors that were basically coming back to the Revolutionary Army and giving them tips on how to, beat them, I guess, in New York, New Jersey.
I mean, we were a bastion of Toryism throughout the whole length of the war. And what that involved on our side, here on our side of the Arthur Kill, again, the British, the Americans were on the opposite side, was everything from espionage to outfitting ships. So you had people here that were illegally selling products to British ships in the harbor, that were organizing, cattle and other supplies that they needed. And I mean, really, it was a collective effort by Staten Island to not be a part of the new American democracy. I mean, Staten Island was very, very, very entrenched within the British government. And, I mean, the interesting thing is the British have used our island as a base of military operations twice. So the part we talk about often is the American Revolution, where the Staten Island was the site of their landing. The first shots in New York Harbor were fired here on Staten Island. In fact, the last shot of the American Revolution, which you can read about at the end of the book, was fired at Staten Island. But you have all this stuff happening, and the British use in the American Revolution, they station their troops here, and then they invade the Brooklyn and Long Island mainland from here. They do that again in the reconquest of New York when the British took it back from the Dutch in the 1660s. So it's been such an interesting place. In fact, Staten Island was the resting place of troops during the French and Indian War. You know, being located near the open water, this is where they would stage their troops and send them upstate where the battles were. They'd be camped out here. So it's a lot of history right here.
And today, if you don't know, is National Schwenkfelder Thanksgiving, and it's the oldest continuous celebration of Thanksgiving in America. And the Schwenkfelders are followers of a religious sect that left Germany and settled here in Pennsylvania, and they're kind of the Amish folks.
What did I get you for Schwenkfelder Thanksgiving?
I don't remember what we did.
I think, you know, I think it was a couplet or something.
So I bring it up because they were really religious settlers, and you talk in the book about the Huguenots who are right here, and that was a group of, you know, French Protestants came here for religious freedom, right?
So in the 1660s, you have religious wars happening in Europe. Previously, there was a thing called the Edict of Nantes, which allowed Protestants to practice their religion in France. That was overturned, and French Protestants were prosecuted, whether they lived in a place called La Rochelle or they lived in what is modern Belgium. And they were forced to basically come to the New World, and where they landed was on Staten Island. That's where we get the term Huguenot, you know, Huguenot Avenue. They probably pronounce it Huguenot. But that's where we get those names, and that's where we have some still French names, Billiou Street and others of these people, and these original people who came for religious freedom.
So it makes sense that we were Staten Island area was kind of traders, not for the American revolutionaries, because we had a lot of French over here,
Dutch,
and they're French traders, you know. Let me ask you this. On our home front, we were talking about, you know, the congressional race and stuff. I have been really critical of Max Rose. I know you probably have to work with him to bring the best.
And I like to. It's good. It's a good thing.
Right. But I feel like what I'm watching, and you know, I haven't been the greatest proponent of Nicole Malliotakis in my life. I had different times when I was really for her and not for her, when she was knocking Trump and running for mayor, right? But I thought what Max Rose is doing with this campaign, tagging her a fraud, after he wrote an op-ed to us here in Staten Island and said he wouldn't be for impeachment, and then went down to Washington and voted for impeachment, I feel like that almost makes him the fraud in my eyes.
Hypocrisy is the most bipartisan thing in Washington, D.C., and you see it from people on both sides of the aisle. You know, what Staten Island voters really need to calculate, though, in their voting is forget the person of Nicole Malliotakis or Max Rose, because those are people you might really feel either strongly against or strongly for. If you want the Democrats to have a majority in Congress, vote for Max Rose. If you want Nancy Pelosi and her crazy, crazy radical leftists to be removed from power, then the only vote you could possibly make is Nicole Malliotakis. I mean, there isn't an option C. So if you care about those things, if you care about President Trump having a majority in Congress, if you care about pushing back against the anti-police crowd, the defund, the let's hamper our police, you know, let's tear down the institutions of our city crowd, if you don't like that, then your obvious vote is Nicole Malliotakis.
Yeah, I really wish people would take identity to the person, politics out of it, and realize, I think Trump's going to win. I know you think Trump's going to win. So why wouldn't we want a Republican in that seat supporting our president, so we're one step closer to having, you know, everything we need. But final minute, I know you said you think Amy Coney Barrett is going to be the pick. I did some research on both of them on my own. I know this woman, Judge Barbara Lagoa, is getting some serious consideration, and I thought that was kind of like, if she's as qualified as I think, that's like a 2-for-1 sale. It kind of really puts some more, you know, points in the Florida basket.
Well, that's the thing. People should look at this as a third running mate to President Trump. You know, what are their strengths and weaknesses as essentially candidates on the ballot? I mean, you're going to possibly not have this vote until after the election. So the reality for people will be she's on the ballot too.
Yep. Well, look, it couldn't happen at a better time, and I'm not wishing ill on Ruth Bader Ginsburg or her family, but Trump's still in control, and like Ruth Bader Ginsburg said, the president is elected for 4 years, not 3 years and 9 months. All right, you guys out there, if you didn't win a book today, go to Amazon and look up Revolutionary Staten Island, written by none other than my guest today, Joe Borelli, New York City Councilman and chair of the New York State Trump Victory Campaign.
Yes, sir.
Right? Joe, thanks a lot.
Thank you
I
so
really
much.
appreciate it. Joe Borelli, always there for the community. Be there for him. Go out and check out his book. It's cheap, and it's a great read. We'll take a quick break and come back after this.